This week on The Valley.
So much. We've had such incredible adventures and so many new experiences. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the new episode of The Valley, Season 2, Episode 12. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we begin this episode with the dinner they were all having as a group. It's night one. Again, they're in Maui. Listen, it's a beautiful place. Very nice, very romantic. So Luke isn't feeling too well, though, to go to the dinner because, as we learned last week, his grandmother is dying, so he's taking it very hard. But Kristen does encourage him to go and try and relax, and they do end up going. So here they're having all dinner. They ordered their food, their drinks. It looked good. The food looked good. The setting is beautiful, and the vibes seem peaceful so far. Jax isn't there, so that's a major reliever. I feel very bad for Luke, though, because this trip is it's something he planned to propose to Kristen, and so to feel so awful right out the bat, that must really suck. So the table is pretty big. There's a lot of people, so people can have their little individual conversations without everyone hearing it. So Nia does turn to Kristen to tell her that Janet apologized earlier today, and Kristen's like, well, where's my apology? But Kristen's done with Janet, she really is, and I don't blame her, so she doesn't really care that much. So dinner overall was good, but when everybody leaves, Jessie, who'd been, taking some drinks, he asks Aaron to sit back and to talk, just the two of them. Jessie says, I figured it's time we have this conversation. First of all, I want to let you know that as a father, something that really bothered me, which you wouldn't know because you're not a father, but seeing photos of you with my daughter on a Father's Day post is very disrespectful to me. You can't do that type of stuff without asking me. And Aaron says, I totally understand that, and I did, put myself in your shoes after that, and that's why I took it down. All I'm asking is for you to respect me and Michelle. Jessie then asks, okay, let me ask you this. Did you or did you not cross the line when I was married to Michelle, either emotionally or physically? Aaron says, no, absolutely not. We texted, once for coffee and once when I told her about the honey that I was selling. But other than that, we would run into each other. But no, we didn't have anything going on. Jessie says, I want to like you, but she triggers me. She gets under my skin, but I think it's time to let it go. We need to figure out a way to work it out, and this week should be the perfect time to try and figure that out. And that was pretty much it. Listen, I'm glad the conversation didn't go to hell, because, Jessie has really grown. I really do have to say this, because Jessie of season 1 would have never had such a peaceful conversation like this. And it could have gone really bad. And also, I gotta say this. I know a lot of people don't like Aaron. And listen, if you've been listening to my recaps, I'm not a Michelle fan by far. She's so annoying. I can't stand her. But that doesn't mean I think Aaron is a bad guy or creepy or bad for her or whatever people have been saying. I don't know him, but he doesn't give me a bad vibe. Also, Jessie, I will say this, though. I understand why anyone would would have an issue if they thought that their ex was cheating with the person that they're now dating. But realistically, Jessie, let's just say hypothetically you do find out that him and Michelle were cheating. Then what? Michelle's not going to leave him because of you, because you want to. She's always going to be in your life because you'll have a child together. So you can either try to make it work regardless of who she's dating or not. But that was that. Okay, so it is now the next day, and it's the day of the proposal. Danny and Nia are very excited because they've been a part of this. We did get some flash sides of some stuff that happened last night that they didn't show fully, and it looked like things didn't go too well with Luke. Things got a little worse after dinner with him. He stormed off the room with no clothes on, but Danny says that he's feeling much better now. So some of the girls are by the pool. Janet says that she has not said a single thing to Kristen since they got here. Well, ever since they last saw each other in the restaurant, they haven't spoken to one another. Michelle's boyfriend then asks what happened that night. Like, why did it get so heated? So Janet says, well, there's somebody here who every time the heat is on them, all of a sudden they start spreading rumors against others. Girl. And she says, Jason was a victim of it and you guys were a victim of it. When we were at the restaurant, I felt like Kristen wasn't taking any accountability, blah, 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 blah. One thing I've noticed is that every time Janet goes in on Kristen and what she doesn't like about her, she's really describing herself. Michelle and Aaron don't even want to talk about it, honestly, so it really isn't that serious. Zach's with Benji. Zach is someone else who was involved in this proposal along with Danny and Nia. He had t-shirts made so that people could wear them afterwards with Luke and Nia. Sorry, Luke and Kristen on them with engagement and things like that on the t-shirt. Once that happens, also Zach is trying to figure out, is Janet going to wear one of these? Also, oh my gosh, Kristen walked into the room as he was showing these t-shirts to Benji, and she almost saw them. It was giving me anxiety, and I wasn't even there, so I can't imagine actually being there and planning that. Luke looks much better. He said he got some sleep, so he does feel better today. It was kind of funny, though, throughout the whole episode, seeing Zach, Luke, and Danny and Nia try to say to Kristen, be cute, dress nice, get ready, but without being too obvious. The thing is, though, Kristen, she wasn't getting a hint. She was like, oh, no, I'm fine. I won't shower until later. I won't get dressed up until later. And it's like, oh, my gosh. But you know what? Moral of the story, people, just dress nice all the time when you're going out. So that way, if something eventful happens, you're going to look nice. Also, we saw a brief scene back in California with Jax and his son Cruz. They were at the pool. Jax is talking about how much he loves his son and Cruz is his biggest medicine. And it was a nice scene. I won't deny that. I do think that Jax definitely loves his son, but he needs to love him enough to want to change himself. But it was nice seeing that. So in Maui, there's a lot of stuff happening all at once. Some girls are taking some class. Some people are playing golf. Other people are doing this. It's a big resort and there's a lot of activities to do. So everyone's sort of around. Jessie, Jason, and Aaron are sitting around having shaved ice. And Aaron is, being nice, trying to get to know Jessie a little bit more. So he asks him when was the last time he played hockey. Jesse's like, oh, do you really want to know? Well, it was when I was playing. I got a concussion and me and Michelle actually broke up. But because of that, we got back together. And Aaron's like, oh, did y'all break up any other time after that? And Jessie says, yeah, when y'all started dating. But Aaron is not making things awkward, which is good. That's good. Jason asks them, how did the conversation between both of you go? And Jessie says, it went good. I will do my part not to be calling her names and things like that, but I will trust that you will respect my daughter and respect me. And if you have a question about my daughter, I hope that you reach out to me. And if we do that, I think we have a pretty solid foundation. Aaron says, listen, yeah, I totally understand and I get that, respect is a two-way street, so let's remember that. Honestly, though, it looks like Aaron and Jessie can be respectful with one another and they can definitely get along. The problem is going to be with Jessie and Michelle, though, because that's a whole other ballgame. Alright, so it's time for Nia, Danny, Kristen, and Luke to get on this boat for the proposal. Again, anxiety seeing them try to plan this, because while they're on the boat, they fished for a little bit, waiting for that sunset to get nice. And they actually got some fish, which was fun to watch. Nia is saying to Kristen, as the time's gone by, she says, let's go take some photos. And Kristen's like, no, I don't really feel like taking photos. I don't feel so cute. It's really hot outside, blah, blah, blah. So Kristen goes inside of the boat, and then Luke can't get the ring because Kristen is sitting on top of his bag, and the ring is in the bag. But now Nia doesn't want to put too much pressure on Kristen because then she might start to suspect something. But at the same time, the sunset is perfect, and they got to take advantage of it. So eventually Kristen comes out, and Nia and Danny, they say to Kristen, oh, can you take some pictures of us? So they do. Then Luke and Kristen start to take some pictures. Danny then says, "Oh, look at the dolphins." So Kristen turns. Luke makes sure that she's tilted all the way, looking away from him. And as Kristen is trying to find these dolphins, he gets on one knee. When she turns around, he says, "I love you so much. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" She was shocked. She was taken aback. But it was so sweet. She says yes. And I was like, "Oh." She said yes. And they're engaged. This was very, very nice. It was simple but nice. Great place. Overall success. So back at the resort, Benji and Zach are working hard and transferring everything from their room to where Kristen and Luke are staying now, and getting all of Kristen and Luke's stuff to the presidential suite, because they're going to swap that out so that they can now stay in the presidential suite. Although Kristen and Luke had a mess in their room. Like, they unpacked fully, so it was a little hard for... Listen, Zach and Benji, they were putting that elbow grease. They were working. So Zach and Benji then tell Jessie what's going on, and to let him know that they won't be his roommates anymore because they're going. So they say, "Hey, so listen, Luke is proposing to Kristen as we speak." And Jessie's first reaction is, "Oh wow, that's awesome. Why don't we call the hotel and get 1,000 hibiscus flowers?" So he actually calls the hotel, but they hang up. They must have thought he was joking or something, but he was serious. So it's a little later, and everyone is now getting ready for dinner. Zach then goes down outside to help decorate for the engagement party. And all I was thinking was, we all need a friend like Zach. Like, he was putting his effort all through and through. So at this point, Zach's like, it must have already happened because it was, the sunset was pretty much over. So it's time to call everyone. So he calls Brittany. He says, "Hey, Luke just proposed to Kristen." And Brittany's first reaction, instead of being, "Oh wow, that's great," no, her first thought is, "What? Danny and Nia gotta go on the boat and not me?" Which, I get it, she's a good friend, but just be happy, just be happy. Then Jason, the little wuss, he's eavesdropping, and he hears Zach's call to Brittany, and just like the little bee that he is, he goes and tells his wife, Janet. So now Janet is like, how do I make this about myself? So she calls Zach to say it's probably best if I don't go. Zach's like, "Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I did have t-shirts made, and honestly, I did think it was maybe a bit much for you to wear them, especially since y'all hadn't really talked and are not super cool." And Janet's like, "No, yeah, totally, I get it. Yeah, we just won't go." Zach was actually pretty happy because he didn't want Janet there anyway, so it's like, okay, they won't be missed. So they're skipping the dinner tonight, the celebration. Janet wants to skip the celebration and the dinner, so she goes and tells Jason and Brittany, like, that's it for us. We probably won't see everyone until we get back to LA. But Jason's like, "Why? We don't have to go to the celebration, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to that we can't go to the dinners and still hang out." And Janet's like, "Yeah, but this trip has now turned into their engagement." And I was like, I finally agree with Janet. Thanks for reading the room. Bye. Take your flight with Jason. Get out. But Jason was mad though. He didn't want to go. And it got to a point where he's a little agitated with her, and he says, like, "Don't be making decisions without telling me." And she says, "Okay, why don't you go to their celebration then?" Okay, now this is what I want to see. But guess what, you guys? Jesse, he didn't get all his tulips or whatever the flowers that he wanted to get, but he did help Zach and Benji decorate the presidential suite, which is so nice of him. So once the newly engaged couple makes it back, they head to the room, and the group is there all waiting for them with their t-shirts, and they all say surprise, and they congratulate Luke and Kristen. Kristen was so happy, and then Luke and Kristen did tell them to please not post anything tonight because they do want to let their family know before. But they all celebrate, they cheers, and it was a great night. And that was the end of the episode. Listen, I really, really enjoyed this episode because it wasn't full of drama, but it was nice to see this because I feel like we had been waiting for this moment for a while now throughout the season, and it was great. It was great seeing the engagement, seeing everyone plan it, doing all this stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. But you guys, let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Let me know everything, all your opinions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.